it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. If you've seen the thumbnail, if you've read the title, you already know what we're doing today. We're reading romance books until I feel better. I'm not gonna lie, your girl is feeling depressed. The world is burning. Things in the United States are not going well. My country is building concentration camps. So things are really not going well. And I am suffering mentally. I decided that I'm going to spend some time escaping into books. And what better way to, trick my brain into feeling better than romance, right? So come with me on this vlog and we're gonna read some romance, and hopefully by the end of this we will all feel a little bit better, at least mentally, as the world continues to burn around us. Now, what books are we gonna read? Well, I have pulled a few books off of my shelf to make a tentative TBR, but this vlog is about making me feel better, so I'm not actually gonna commit to a TBR for you all. You will just see what I read as I pick them up. I'm just gonna read whatever I'm in the mood for. But I did just come off of a light book buying ban, and that literally just ended, so obviously I bought a bunch of books. We're not gonna talk about it, okay? I did a little bit of retail therapy. I got Direbound by Sable Sorensen. This is like the current book talk fantasy romance darling. Listen, I have been burned by some of the book talk books before. I'm really intrigued about this book in particular though, because it involves dire wolves. And I don't talk about this too much on here, but like, I actually really love wolves. They're really cool animals. If you don't like wolves, then honestly, fuck you. But this is a fantasy romance where we're basically following the main character, who is this human woman. She is living in this country that is at war with another country, and the other country is like all vampires. This country, their army, like their elite forces, the top of the top, have like bonded dire wolf companions that are like intelligent, and they fight together, and they're like bigger than horses, and they like ride them. And anyways, I love wolves, and I heard riding around on magical dire wolves, and I was like, yeah, sign me up for that. We're gonna see how it goes. Welcome to the vlog where we read romance until I no longer feel depressed. I will talk to you soon. Hi, let's talk about the first roughly 100 pages of Direbound, because I have read up through chapter 10. I didn't really have a super good idea of the plot going into this book. I do think I mentioned this, but I was correct. I don't know how large like the entire world in this fantasy world is, but all we have learned about is the main country that the main character, Marin, that's where she lives, and they are at constant war with the neighboring kingdom, and the neighboring kingdom is apparently like all vampires. Marin's father is dead. He was a soldier and he died in the war, and she lives with her mother, who has been suffering from what might be schizophrenia. She like talks to people that aren't there and has hallucinations and stuff like that, but like also some of the symptoms seem like a little bit closer to Alzheimer's, so like I'm not entirely really sure what is supposed to be wrong with her mother. It's like not specifically stated, just that like she is sick. So Marin is, I believe, in like her early 20s, and she is like the primary breadwinner for her mother, and her sister. Her little sister is preteen. I believe she's 12. Marin's family is pretty poor, and she is supporting them through a combination of working at like a laundry place that people pay her to wash their clothes, and then also she does street fighting, which is fun. I like that. The one thing that bugged me though is like the book says that she's like undefeated, and that did bug me a little bit, because I'm like, no one's undefeated. What do you mean she's undefeated? I'm like, she could have won 50 out of 51 matches, but like, no one goes undefeated. That's how she supports the family. Here's the thing. For, I don't know, like several years now, it seems, there has been this group kidnapping small children. And the theory is, okay, so like the vampires need to drink blood to live. And I don't know how true this is because I haven't talked to any of the vampires myself, and I don't know where this story is gonna go. I have no idea. But the vampires need blood to live, and they say in the book that children give them like better life essence because, like, I don't know, maybe like they're more pure or something. Their life essence is more concentrated because they're younger. I don't know. So they like killing children because, you know, it's better juice, I guess. So there's this group that has been kidnapping children for years, and really nobody is doing anything about it. At least that's what it seems. And the theory is that it is the vampires taking children back to their country because they are running out of food. Obviously, because what else is gonna happen? Marin's younger sister is kidnapped. Marin obviously wants to do something about this, like she is a fighter, so she decides that she is going to enlist in the army, and that way like maybe she can get to the front lines, and like maybe she'll be able to like pick up a trail of the vampires like taking them back across like to the other country. Like, you know, she's just trying to get on the trail and basically find her sister. That's all she cares about. So she decides that she's going to volunteer to be just like in the regular infantry. Now, here's where things get complicated. Marin has a boyfriend. He works at the palace as, I think, like a messenger boy. Like he like runs errands for them, delivers mail, like that type of thing. But the point is that he lives inside the palace, even though he's like lower down in the ranks. Marin signs up and enlists and gets all of that and like does all the paperwork and everything before she tells her boyfriend that she's going to do that. And then once she does that, he's like, oh no, they're about to do the wolf bonding thing. Like I mentioned, this is a series that has like intelligent direwolves as companions. I don't really know much about it yet. The wolf population is like finite periodically. I do not know how long. They hold this competition to see who can bond with the direwolves. They don't advertise this ahead of time because like basically if you enlist in the army during like the period where the bonding trial is going to take place, you are required to take place in the bonding trial regardless of whether you want to or not, which does seem kind of silly because Marin comments on how it feels like they might be losing this war to the vampires. The reason they don't tell people ahead of time that this like bonding competition is going to take place is because most people die. There are a lot of people that want to do this because they want the prestige of being bonded to these wolves. Like they definitely would have enough people to do it. So it's like, why are they wasting people's lives for the people that don't want to do it? Obviously, like we know what's gonna happen, right? Like we can tell. It's literally called Dire Bound. So Marin has already enlisted, and then her boyfriend, because he works for the palace and he lives there, he's like, no, they're gonna do this bonding competition. I forget what it's, there's like a name for it, but I forget. And she's like, shit, I don't want to bond the wolves. I just want to go to the front line to see if I can pick up the trail of my sister. So basically her boyfriend tells her, hey, it's okay. The wolves don't bond people who don't want to bond. All you have to do is make it through like the first part of the challenge, which the first part of the challenge is like they have to go to the wolves. And that's dangerous because like it's an icy, snowy mountain and the wolves are at the top of it. This is a really dangerous competition, but if you can survive that first phase, once you reach the wolves, all you have to do is think in your head as hard as you can, like, I don't want to bond, I don't want to bond, I don't want to bond, because the wolves are psychic. They'll see that you don't want to bond and like they won't bond you. After that, you'll be allowed to go to the front lines. And so he takes her to a shop and spends a bunch of money so she has like proper like cold weather gear and stuff like that for her. Honestly, her boyfriend at the moment doesn't really have much of a personality. He just basically seems like a walking green flag, but other than that, he's very generic, which does make me think that potentially he's not like endgame. I mean, to be fair, I'm 100 pages in, like he could develop a personality. But like so far, he's just like a really solid guy who wants to take care of his girlfriend and seems to really care about her. So that's basically it. He's a green flag, but he's boring. Like I mentioned, if you enlist in the army when they're about to do this, you don't have a choice. Everyone is required to participate in this challenge. And the first thing is they have to climb this mountain. And at the top, there are the wolves, and then the wolves pick their riders. To be perfectly honest, it seems so absurd to me that this is like the first challenge, because Marin is like mountain climbing, like rock climbing. Like she's climbing sheer cliff faces that are covered in ice. She is ice climbing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that takes like special training. We have learned from being in Marin's point of view that like the part of the armed forces that is bonded to these wolves, they are considered like elite forces and they have special privileges. Basically, if you're bonded, then like you have kids with other people who are bonded, and so like they're not the nobility, but like they're kind of one under the nobility. They're all rich, they're all super privileged. Those families that are bonded, they teach their kids how to rock climb and how to make it up the mountain, and like they give them special tips so that they have an advantage. They buy them the best of gear and they train them how to do this challenge. Anyone who's coming from a family whose parents are bonded, they have like a massive advantage over everybody else that's just like a regular civilian. Marin has a lot of resentment for, she has a lot of resentment for everyone who's privileged within the world, but like also specifically for the bonded, because the royalty within this world, they try to portray it as like this equal thing where it's like based off of merit. Oh, the wolves can bond with anyone. They'll just pick whoever is the most worthy. And it's like, yeah, technically that's true, but if you've got, 10 people climbing up this mountain and 5 of them are trained on how to actually get there, and their family has given them like secret routes for how to get up the mountain the fastest, and 5 have had 0 training, like who do you think's gonna make it to the top? So Marin has a lot of resentment for them, but interestingly enough, she actually saved a girl's life. She saved one of the bonded like children's lives. I say children, but like they're all adults. Like they're all either late teens or early 20s. So Marin actually saved this girl's life, and so this girl and her identical twin sister are now helping Marin climb to the top of the mountain. And like she absolutely would have died without them. I can't believe anybody who has no training makes it to the top. Like they do. They're sending like hundreds of people up the mountain, and like more live than die. It's not like only 10% make it to the top. This is ice climbing. How? It just seemed so silly. If you need soldiers and troops all the time for this war against the vampires, why are you wasting untrained people climbing up a sheer ice cliff? I need to move on from this. So we already know what's gonna happen, right? Marin makes it to the top and she bonds with a wolf. To Marin's credit, she was up there and she was in her head going like, I don't want to bond, I don't want to bond, I don't want to bond. And like actually 2 wolves approached her and then walked away. But then a wolf came and like forced her to bond. She didn't give her a choice. And of course, the wolf that forces Marin to bond, she is older than the other wolves. I get the feeling that like these wolves can live like hundreds and hundreds of years old. I don't know if they're immortal or if they just have a really long life, but the wolf that bonds Marin is older than the others. And like people were whispering when she first got to the top of the mountain, Marin heard them whispering. They were like, that's Inessa, she's never bonded anyone. She refuses to bond people. Obviously, Marin's wolf is like super special. That's where I'm at. I don't know what's gonna happen now, but like obviously now Marin is going to have to train to be a part of like the bonded soldier part of the army. A bunch of people died absolutely unnecessarily, but here we go. So that's 100 pages in. So far, it's very fine. I don't have any strong opinions. Marin seems fine. I'm sure she's gonna like make friends with these identical twin girls now, like obviously because they've already had more screen time than her bland vanilla boyfriend. I'll talk to you when I have something a little more interesting to say. Good morning. It is time for an update. Kind of a big one, to be honest. First of all, I am just over halfway through Direbound. I feel bad saying this, but it still is kind of just fine. We're still in the training phase. These wolves, there are like 4 lineages amongst the wolves. There are 4 packs, and the different packs, the different bloodlines have different types of magic, and you can tell what pack a wolf is from by the color of their coat. And so then when you bond with the wolf, some of the strands of your hair turn the same shade as your wolf's coat, except for Marin. Obviously she's super duper special and bonded with like the most special wolf. Her entire head all turned silver. It's just been like a lot of training, having these like certain tests that they have to go through. Marin has been having like a particularly difficult time communicating with her wolf. Her wolf forced her to bond, but then like she refuses to communicate with her. It was like honestly over 200 pages in before Marin finally like made a breakthrough with her wolf and was like actually able to communicate with them, because like they have like a psychic link. Everyone else has been able to communicate, but her wolf has been shutting her out. But like honestly, Marin is not my favorite character. I mentioned before, like the bonded community are like very privileged and pampered. I get the fact that like Marin is kind of like she looks down on them because of like their privileged cushy life, but then like you also find out that the entire bonded community is exploited by the royalty and especially like the king. Obviously they still have it better than like the people who can't afford food, but it's a different type of problem. At least the people down in the slums aren't being like exploited sexually. It is a little bit frustrating that Marin clearly has like people, like she's made friends and like she even considers them to be friends, but yet she refuses to ask them for help. The entire bonded community has so much more knowledge than she does. Like they just know so many things, and literally Marin could just ask them about it. Why is she not asking questions so that she can learn? She's constantly getting things wrong, and like the frustrating part about it too is that like she will think something in her head and then she will just automatically assume that whatever she has decided must be right. But like instead of asking and like getting more information for these topics that she knows absolutely nothing about, she just assumes that like whatever she comes up with in her head must be right, and then she's like proved wrong like again and again and again. And it's like, how many times do you have to be proven wrong before you're finally just gonna like actually ask for for help and ask for information. I know like I'm kind of ranting here, but like honestly, I actually am still liking the book overall. I'm interested, it's entertaining, and I don't like hate Marin. She's just like not my favorite, and I just get frustrated with her. A good main character should have some flaws. It just is frustrating for me that this main character has the flaws that she has. Honestly, the book is really entertaining, so it's got that going for it. I am having a good time. I do like what we're learning about the wolves and the world. I like that the wolves are not human, like they're very ruthless and a little bit bloodthirsty. Every single time Marin does something aggressive or vicious, like she can feel like her wolf's approval. But one thing I will say is that I don't get why they're killing so many people. I mean, to be honest, like it's not that many. I would estimate like they probably killed off like 10%. But like I don't get it because we've learned that like the wolf population is dwindling. Like there are not as many wolves anymore, and like the wolves are magical, so they think that like there's probably a magical reason why the wolves are not having as many babies. We'll probably get into that. I think that it's gonna have something to do with Marin and her super special hair and her super special wolf. But like the thing is, the wolf and the rider are bonded, and if you kill one, you automatically kill the other. I understand that the wolves are not human, but like I find it weird that like their population is in trouble, but yet they're killing the people they're bonded to, decreasing their population even more. It would make more sense to me if they were like, we're not gonna kill you, but if they like rejected them or something and they were like, you can't ride me, I'm not gonna help you, and then like they like went back to like the wilderness where the wolves live when they're unbonded. One thing that I actually love in books, as part of like this like trial testing thing that they have going on, they sometimes get tattoos, and there are reasons for that, which like I'm not going to tell you, you can read if you want to know. They get tattoos, and then after they're finished tattooing, they lick them. The person that tattoos you licks your tattoo. They use the excuse that it is like an impulse, like an instinct from the wolf, which like, yes, wolves do lick injuries. That's so unsanitary. That's so unsanitary. Like, why would you do that? You're not out in the wilderness. You're not a wolf. It grossed me out. Also, so Marin has a boyfriend, and she has kept her boyfriend, and we have learned more about him. However, he is blonde, and their instructor like is very clearly interested in Marin. I think it's gonna be like a hate to love type of relationship. He is one of the other like wolf riders, and he is actually like the alpha of his pack. He does not like that he is into her. Like, he's constantly annoyed with her. He's annoyed that she's not putting enough effort into bonding with her wolf. He's annoyed that like she's so far behind all the other bonded, but like also at the same time, like he's very much into her. And he has black hair, so I do think that potentially he will be like the love interest moving forward. So that's where I'm at right now in Direbound. I did also just want to mention that last night on my Kindle, when I didn't want to like hold a book anymore, I was reading in bed, and I read the entirety of Blood Slumber by Bella Roth. This is a novella that is in the Blood Grace world. It is a gender-swapped Sleeping Beauty. Blood Grace is my favorite fantasy romance series, one of my favorite series of all time, and it involves vampires. So in this one, there's a vampire that is under like a magical enchantment, and a woman wakes him up by like feeding him her blood. And I don't really want to get any more into it than that. She wakes him up because she wants his help getting revenge, so that's fun. The whole thing is only like 115 pages or something like that. I had a good time. I rated it 3 stars. I thought it was fun, but to be honest, like there just wasn't all that much to it. I mean, in 115 pages, like obviously it's gonna be like really insta love. It was still fun. I love Bella Roth Roth's writing. It was good to be in the Blood Grace world. She did post on her Instagram that if you want to try out the series, that like this is an entry point that you can have. Her other novella, I actually don't think you should start with that one because I think that you're lacking more of the world building, but I think that you'd be fine with Blood Slumber. But to be honest, I think you should just start with book 1 of the Blood Grace series. So that's my opinion on that because I think it's fantastic, and that's a 5-star. I read that short little novella. It was fun, it was enjoyable, it was 3 stars. So yeah, that's my first finished romantasy for this vlog. I'm gonna go read now and see how far I can get into Direbound. Hello. It is many hours later, but I actually managed to finish Direbound today. And you know what? The second half of this book was actually like a lot better than the first half. We do get a lot of answers. Obviously, we already know that Maren is special in some way. We find out why. By the time we find out why, it's like very obvious. Like it is not a reveal. But then we also find out a lot more other things. I know that's super vague. Some of them I didn't see coming until like right beforehand, which really made it fun. I was like, oh my god, a little bit bamboozled. Honestly though, I don't really care when I can tell what's gonna happen in a story, as long as I have a fun time reaching the end and reaching the conclusion. Like as long as I'm entertained, I'm having a good time, I'm like invested in the characters, like as long as there's something about the story that's pulling me on, I don't really care if I can predict what's happening. I was also talking about how I think it's silly that like they're killing so many like potential soldiers and wolves when they have this war going on, and we actually get an answer for why. I think that it makes sense, and I think it's honestly satisfying. Also, like Maren, even though she is still like a little bit frustrating and like I still am like, girl, figure it out. But I will say that I do think that she learned to ask for help. To be honest, it really took her friends being like, Maren, you suck, you are the worst, like what is the matter with you? She learns that like it is good to share like the highs and the lows with your friends, that like sharing things that upset you make them seem not so bad, sharing things that are joyful makes them even more joyful. Maren definitely has some growing moments in terms of like how she interacts with other people. She also has a lot of growing moments with her wolf, and I think her wolf is really responsible for her growing in her ability to interact with other people. At this point, I still don't think that like she's my favorite main character, but I do think that I will probably continue the series. Did I say, by the way, I'm giving this book 3.5 stars. Yes, like the second half of the book was definitely better than the first half, but like it's still like, this didn't like blow me away. It's good, it's a solid book. I think it's like very fun, I think it's very entertaining, and I do like where the story is going. If book 2 was out today, I would definitely read it. Also, this was indie published, and I found out that it got picked up to be traditionally published, and that is frustrating to me. I want books in a series to match, and like the traditionally published books never match indie published books. Like they're always like a different material, they're different heights. Now I either have to have mismatched books or I have to like re-buy this book. If I would have known before I bought this book, I would have just waited and got the traditionally published version. One thing that I also liked about Maren's development as a character too is like she gets more ruthless as the book goes on, and I kind of dig that. Her wolf is egging her on and she gets a little bit dark. That is 2 books down for this vlog. I'm not having that like feeling that I originally wanted. That was like the reason I started this vlog, where you're like kicking your feet, you have butterflies. I'm not really getting that. So we're gonna continue. I think I'm gonna read on Kindle Unlimited. There's like a new vampire romance that people are enjoying. I think it's like on Wings of Blood. I'm gonna read that on Kindle Unlimited, but I think for my physical book, I'm gonna pick up Phantasm. I don't really actually know that much about this book, but I think that it's about a woman that enters like a competition, and the competition is set in like a haunted house, and she falls in love with a ghost, I think. Those are the books that I'm planning on reading next. Hopefully I will get that butterfly feeling that I'm looking for that can hopefully cure my depression. That's the plan. I'll talk to you soon. You don't realize this, but it's actually been 4 days. I am on day 5 of starting new anxiety medicine. There is an adjustment period, and I would say today I feel about 80% human. I have been feeling like absolute garbage for the past 4 days. I haven't really been reading very much over the past couple of days. I've only made it like a quarter of the way into Phantasma. First of all, I did just want to say I DNF'd on Wings of Blood. I made it like 50 pages in and I was like, don't care. And on top of that, I did not like what I was assuming was going to be the male love interest. I DNF'd it after 50 pages, and I did decide that on my Kindle now for this vlog, I'm going to read Shield of Sparrows. I technically have started it, but I'm like 15 pages in, so like I don't have anything to tell you right now about that. So I'm roughly a quarter of the way into Phantasma. So far, I don't really have any strong opinions. The plot hasn't really kicked off. So the first chapter opens up and it's about these two sisters, but we're really just following Ophelia. She is like the main character POV, and she is the eldest daughter in a family of necromancers. And at the beginning of the book in chapter 1, she finds that her mother is dead, and then she has to do this ritual so that her mother's magic will pass on to her. In this family, only like the eldest woman in the family has magic. So she does this ritual and she gets her mother's powers, and then they're kind of dealing with the aftermath of their mother dying, and they have this meeting with lawyers. They find out at this meeting that apparently their mother took out like a loan on the house, and she is like very behind on payments on this loan, and Ophelia doesn't know why she's behind on payments, but this is like their generational familial house, and she very much is attached to it. She's attached to her familial magic, and so like she obviously doesn't want to lose this house. Now on the other hand, her sister Genevieve is like, we have been tied to this house for generations, like no one in this town really likes us, they think like we're creepy witches, we should just leave. And Ophelia does kind of understand this because Genevieve has no magic, so like she's just kind of stuck there, but like she doesn't have any powers, like so she kind of gets like the shit end of it. But the two sisters fight over what they're gonna do about this house. After the two sisters fight, Genevieve actually leaves, and Ophelia is like, excuse me, what the fuck? And so she goes through her room and she is looking for clues to like where her sister might have gone. She finds that her sister Fisher has been obsessed with this competition called Phantasma, which it seems that you get locked in a magical moving haunted house and there is like a competition and trials. You can leave whenever you want, but a lot of people do die. It is dangerous, like the supernatural creatures that are haunting this house could like really harm you. But if you win the competition, you basically get your heart's desire. Because of the argument that they had about the house, Ophelia is convinced that Genevieve has gone to enter this competition, and she's like, oh hell no, you're gonna get yourself killed. So she decides that she is gonna also go enter the competition, and she is going to basically, she just wants to like find her sister and get the heck out. She doesn't really care about winning. At the point I'm at, she has just made it to the house. Like, there have been some creepy crawliness. There has been like, well, one incident. I say some, but like one incident. I'm pretty sure that we've met the love interest, but to be honest, like I don't really have any feelings overall at this point in the book. But I'm mainly just excited to get to know the love interest now. Ophelia feels very fine. I don't have any strong feelings about her either way, but I'm sure that'll change as I move forward in the book. And I'm also really excited to see what this necromantic magic is gonna end up like. Obviously, Ophelia is gonna have a little bit of an advantage in this book, so that's gonna be fun. If I can, I would like to get some reading done today. To be honest, I need to clean. I've kind of been neglecting all of my real life responsibilities because I felt so terrible. I will hopefully talk to you later today. Okay, we have DNF number 2 of this vlog. I am not reading any more of this book. I made it halfway through. I gave it a good go, but I just don't care. The love interest, very generic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him. There's also like nothing like that's drawing me to him that makes me want to keep reading. And Ophelia is like useless. First of all, there has still been no cool necromantic magic in here. We see glimmers of Ophelia's magic, but like it's very like uncontrolled and like unintentional. Her life is on the line, her sister's life is on the line, and she is just so useless in this competition. She's so bad at figuring things out. If she did not have the love interest, who is, by the way, like a phantom, he's like a really powerful ghost and he's trapped in the house. If she didn't have him, she would be dead. I don't want Ophelia to be this overpowered, super strong necromancer. I want to see her struggle. I want to see her learn about her magic, but like she's truly useless. And like on top of that, part of the reason she's so useless is because the challenges that the contestants are set are a little bit nonsensical. Well, I mean, one is straightforward, one is a maze. You would think that someone that was raised to like know about ghosts and how to interact with ghosts and ghouls and like all of these creepy crawlies that go bump in the night, you would think that like her behavior would be more logical and she wouldn't be so easily like duped. I think that there are points in the competition where it has potential, but the execution of these different tasks that they have to do, the different challenges, is just done so poorly that like I don't care. Ophelia's useless, the love interest is generic, so I'm DNFing this book. I will be picking up another physical read because I don't want to end on this depressing note. So I think I'm gonna pick up Swordheart by T. Kingfisher because that book is gonna be fun, it's gonna be silly, it's gonna be wholesome. It's about a girl that falls in love with a man who lives in a sword. I've read 2 books by T. Kingfisher and I gave them 4 and 4.5 stars, so I'm setting myself up for success with this one. I'll talk to you when I talk to you, but this is a miss for me. Hello. I have 2 updates for you all. I'm roughly 100 pages into Shield of Sparrows, and to be honest, not really much has happened so far, but I'm very intrigued by the world that we're building, mainly because it's a world full of monsters, and I like fantastical creatures, and I especially love it when they are monsters. We're in this fantasy world, and there are 5 different countries in what we know of. A long time ago, once upon a time, the gods of this world made like these magical monsters. They set them loose on the world, and they've basically been causing nonstop problems for the humans of the world. In particular, there is this like one type of like giant bird monster. I think it's like once a generation or something like that. They go on a migration, and when they migrate, they just go on like rampages across like the whole continent, and so it's really devastating for the human populations. These 5 countries have come up with this binding blood magic alliance, and it's called the Shield of Sparrows. In order to make it so that they can survive, it is an alliance of marriage, but like also of resources. So basically the alliance is 2 parts. First of all, every single year, all of the countries owe tribute to the other countries for whatever resource they have. For example, one country has a resource of lumber that other countries don't have, and like that lumber is important for them like building defenses. You get what I'm saying? So like basically every country has something that they produce well, and so now they have requirements of sending those to the other countries. And then to further strengthen the alliance, once in a generation, I believe, and it like rotates around between the different countries, they send a princess to marry a prince. We meet the main character, and so far, like, she's fine. She's the oldest daughter of the king, so she's the oldest princess, but she is actually not the one that's being chosen to be the sparrow. She is like just a girl. She's just a girl. I mean, she's like in her 20s. She's an adult. But her sister is a very talented warrior and like also very ruthless. Like she's been training her entire life. She's very proficient in like a variety of weapons. And basically her father has trained her sister to become a spy, even though all of the countries are in this like blood magic treaty. That still doesn't mean that they're necessarily friends. It just means that they need each other for survival. Obviously, something has to go wrong, otherwise we wouldn't have a plot moving forward. The father of our main character, the king, he actually hired the prince and his like elite soldiers from the country that her sister was supposed to marry. He hired them because they're like known for being amazing warriors to come and kill these monsters. However, when he kills the monsters, the prince realizes that he killed 7 female monsters, and there's also this like old blood rule, like magic whatever. If you kill 7 female monsters of one type, then you get to ask like the king for any boon that you want. And so the prince is like, yeah, I'm not marrying the daughter that you trained to be an assassin spy. I'm marrying the other daughter. And she's like, say what now? So that's the setup that we have going on. They get married, and then they all get on a boat and head back to the prince's kingdom. So far it's just been that and then them on the boat. They just landed in like the prince's home country, like on the shore there. What makes things a little bit more interesting is, and this is like the reason that the main character's sister was trained to like be a spy and like trained with weapons and everything, it's twofold. First of all, no one who has been to the capital city within the prince's realm has like left. All the other kingdoms, like they don't know anything about the capital city of this country. And then the second thing is the prince's like right hand dude or whatever, they just call him the Guardian, and he has supernatural abilities. He's like very strong, very fast, that type of thing. There is magic in this world, and so the king is like, figure out how he's a super soldier so like I can make my soldiers super soldiers. So those are like the tasks that our main character has been given. The Guardian is like super hostile to her, and the prince is like very untrusting because he's kind of like, I know your dad is asking you to spy on me. There's definitely like no trust between these two factions. The princess is also pretty isolated. She brought 2 like ladies maids with her, and that's pretty much it. That's where we're at with Shield of Sparrows. I want more of the monsters. Second update time, I'm roughly a third of the way through Sword Heart, and I'm really enjoying it so far. The main character in this her uncle was very, very sick, and so she went and took care of them. It's her uncle-in-law. And basically the rest of her in-law family suck. She is a widow, and then when he dies, he leaves everything to her, and her in-laws are like extremely pissed about this. So they literally imprison her in her bedroom, and they're like, we're only gonna let you out if you marry the brother of like her dead husband, her brother-in-law. They're like, if you marry him so that like we can keep all of your inheritance in the family, then we'll stop holding you hostage in the bedroom. And our main character is like, fuck that. Here's the thing, if she dies, her nieces will actually inherit her belongings because she doesn't have any children. She's like, I'm just gonna kill myself and then my nieces will inherit, and then this family can't do anything about it. Her uncle was like kind of an artifact collector, and there's this like old rusty sword on the wall. So she's like, I'm just gonna like stab myself through the heart with a sword. But when she pulls the sword out of the sheath, a man appears, and he is the sword's guardian. And because she drew the sword, and also like it was her dead uncle's sword, so like now she inherited it, it's her sword, and so he's like, okay, I'm your guard, I'm going to watch out for you. She explains her predicament, and the guardian of the sword is extremely pissed off that she's being held against her will, so he helps her escape the house, and then they're just like out on the street, and he's like, now what? And our main character is like, well, why don't we go to this temple like a couple towns over, because this temple has like really good lawyers and like they'll help us, like that's what that temple is for. And so he's like, cool, let's go. And so they're hiking along the way. So far I'm really enjoying this book. Now here's the thing, my one criticism is that I don't necessarily love the way our main character was just like, I'm gonna kill myself. The overall like vibe of this book is a silly, goofy romp of an adventure. It's fantastic and I'm loving that vibe, but I don't necessarily love that's also kind of the way the suicide thoughts were handled in the beginning of the book. I don't want to get into it, but suicide in books is definitely like a trigger for me. Like I knew that plot point going in, and it's not that this character is like depressed and that's why she wants to commit suicide. She just doesn't want to have to marry this man. And I mean, like obviously she shouldn't have to marry someone she doesn't want to. It just was a little icky. I just didn't really like the way it was particularly handled in this. Other than that though, I have zero criticisms of the book. I like that our main character is a little bit older. I think she's like 35 or something like that. Hala's also a very interesting character because she's not naive, but her realm of experience within the world has been fairly limited. She didn't like travel. She's not like super educated. So it's really funny because that's like the complete opposite of like the sword guardian. The guardian, even though he's so grumpy, he's also like very respectful. The dynamic is definitely working for me, and I really like this combination of Hala like kind of exploring the world for the first time and having all of these new experiences without her being this like super young naive woman. She has life experience, but that life experience did not prepare her to be a hostage and then on the run. It's been a really good time. Like I said, even though I didn't like the tone when we talked about Hala choosing to commit suicide, I do really like the overall tone that this is like a silly, goofy, fun adventure. I'm having a blast. This is like a very fun book. There was one really funny moment. Hala and the Guardian, they go to one of her uncle's friends and they're like, hey, we're just traveling, can we just stay here for the night? She's like, this is my guard that I've hired. And the uncle's friend is like, yeah, sure. And so Hala is like, hey, I'll cook dinner tonight. And the guard, like, he's like so serious about everything. Like every time they go someplace, he's like, I gotta check in this room, gotta check in this room. There could be somebody that's coming to kill you, Hala. And Hala's like, you need to chill. This is literally an old man and his butler. Like, we're fine. She's like, if you want to do something, peel these potatoes. And He's so grumpy about it. I just picture him like at the table, like me, peeling potatoes. That's where I'm at in Sword Heart. It's a good time. I'm definitely enjoying myself. I will talk to you again, I guess, when I have something to say about either of these books. But it's looking like we're gonna end this vlog on 2 strong books. Hello. I finished another book for this vlog. I finished Sword Heart. It's so good and it's so fun. So I think I'm gonna give this book 4 stars. I do really recommend it. This was just so whimsical and so silly and cute and warm, and I had a great time. I also love adventure stories, and even though there are some like non-traditional things about this story, it is still at its heart a classic adventure story, and I absolutely loved that. It was so fun to follow Hala and her guardian as they try to get her inheritance back from her evil stepmother. It's not stepmother though, it's mother-in-law, but I think that like that trope is still kind of the same. I mentioned before that they were traveling to a temple to get the help of priests that are like lawyer priests. They make it to the temple, they meet the priests of the White Rat, and it's just fantastic. Other than what I said about suicide at the beginning of this book, I only have 2 complaints for the entire book. One, I do think it was a little bit long. I did kind of reach a point where I was like, how many times are we gonna drive up and down the same road? And then my only other complaint, which isn't even really a complaint, is that I wish that there was more Zale and Brindle content. I loved those 2 characters. Zale is the priest that they meet, and Brindle is it a gnoll or a kobold? I'm pretty sure it's a gnoll that they meet. And I just thought that they were so silly and funny, and I loved them. Hala and Zale speaking to each other in their conversations was so fun. This is definitely a book that has made my heart so happy. I love T. Kingfisher. She's such a fantastic author. I'm so happy I picked this up. Did this book help my depressive episode? Maybe. It did make my heart very happy to read this book, so the short answer is yes. But also, like I mentioned before, I'm now on anxiety medicine, and my mental health is really gone up. Adjusting to the medicine was terrible, but now I feel fantastic. I also wanted to do an update because I'm roughly halfway through Shield of Sparrows, and that book is also going well. The book is very slow burn. The main character is now in her husband's land. She has gone back with the prince and his like elite soldiers. She is kind of failing at being a spy for her father, but I do kind of like the conversations that she is having with the prince and like also his like inner circle. There has been some creature attacks. I like them. I like it when there are magical monsters. I do kind of like that our main character is essentially just a girl and she's just doing her best after kind of being thrown to the wolves. I like seeing her use her intelligence and whatever she can to try to gain an advantage. It's her and like her 2 maids, and her 2 maids are basically useless. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it when we have like a strong warrior female main character, but I also love seeing a kind of underdog female main character who's just trying to like use her wits and her intelligence and just trying to figure it out. One thing I also like too is that they go to this like treehouse city. I know that this is super specific, but I love treehouse cities. I just love them. It's like a safety thing because of the monsters that live in this area. I also do appreciate that this book does seem to be quite slow burn, and it does seem like the main characters are very, very slowly building trust with each other. The prince and his inner circle know that she had to have been told to spy and like report back to her father, even even though they both acknowledge that like they're not truly on the same side, I have been enjoying seeing them build trust in each other and start to open up on like a more personal level. Especially, I forget her name, but there is a main character who is a woman warrior that the prince really trusts, and he lets her train the princess. I love seeing the two of them connect. Two things that are a little bit frustrating is that there's gonna be a reveal, and it is the most obvious reveal I have ever read. I'm halfway in, and I kind of just want us to get to that point where it's revealed because I want to like be able to move on past that. I honestly think that that is kind of like slowing the plot down. This does feel a little bit like a setup book, which it's a first book in a fantasy series, and there's a lot of things that need to be established, so I don't mind a setup book as long as I'm also entertained, and I definitely am. I do feel like the plot is moving a little slow at this midpoint. And then the only other thing that I find frustrating is that the main character, like I said, she's just thrown to the wolves, and she repeatedly is trying to like ask people questions, and they just like refuse to answer her. On one hand, I understand why they're not answering her questions, but on the other hand, sometimes her life is in danger and they could answer some of these questions so that she doesn't almost die. That part is a little bit frustrating. That's where I'm at with Shield of Sparrows. I finished Sword Heart, and yeah, I'll probably just update you once I finish Shield of Sparrows, which should close this vlog out. So talk to you soon. Hello friends, I'm coming to you with the last update for this vlog. I have finished Shield of Sparrows. Overall, I liked it. A lot actually does happen in like the last 50 pages or so of the book. I do think that I'm gonna end up giving this book 3.5 stars. I do think that I will continue with this series, especially if book 2 is put up on Kindle Unlimited. Everything that I said in the last update still ring true, but my favorite things about this book, I have to say, are the main character. I really liked her, and then I really loved the world of this book. I liked going to different places and seeing how the different areas live. I like the magical creatures, the monsters, all of that is fun. There's also some reveals at the end. I mean, first of all, there is like the one really super obvious reveal that happens in the second half of the book. It's like way before the end. Currently, everyone in this entire country, continent, all of the countries in this alliance, they are preparing for this migration of these giant monster birds. I did like how the book ended, and I did like kind of the little tiny glimpses that we learned about the magic within this world, because there is magic. We really don't learn very much about it. We do not learn very much. You will not come out of this book with a clear understanding of how the magic in this world works, but we did get a few crumbs at the end of this book that I found very intriguing, and I do want to see where that goes. I'm also intrigued to just see what's gonna happen with these monsters, and I'm also really intrigued to see how the politics of this world are going to play out. This whole book has really been about the building of trust and seeing like how is this marriage and how are all of these relationships going to work in the long term. I really enjoyed seeing the trust being slowly built up, even though at times I was frustrated because our main character is like, what is happening? And everyone's like, we're not gonna tell you. But it did feel like very realistic to building trust with people that are inherently untrustworthy to you. At the end of the book, like I said, there are a couple of reveals, and we finally got to meet the prince's father, the king of this other country as well. And so I'm just like really excited to also get more into the political intrigue moving forward into this series. Now that our main character is more wrapped up in the politics of this world, I think in book 2 we're gonna get a lot more political intrigue. The king seems like a real dick. So, I mean, maybe someone will stab him. That could be really fun. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I really liked how the book ended. I like her main character. I like the world, and I'm definitely intrigued enough to keep going. But again, it was 3.5 stars. To be perfectly honest, this is a setup book, and that's fine. I had a good time reading this. I was never bored. And like, listen, sometimes you need setup books in fantasy series. Like, that's just a fact. I do think that that does contribute to why I didn't rate it any higher. If you exclude like the last 50 pages of this book, to be honest, like not really much happened, but it was still a good time. I did enjoy myself. That brings us to the end of this vlog. Did reading romance books fix my depressive episode? Who knows? But I'm feeling a lot better regardless. So it's a successful vlog in my opinion. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. I hope that you stay safe this week, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.